Before joining the 11th Airborne in Alaska, Dixon and I grew up in motels in Nevada. His father was a professional poker player, and Dixon inherited a dangerous trait from him. He believed that probability mathematics protected him better than a bulletproof vest. The chance of a brick falling on your head is 1 in a million. Hendrix. That means I'm safe today, he would say as he jumped off rooftops or rode his bike without a helmet. I was the son of a carpenter, and I knew that if something could break or puncture your lung, it would. We were transferred to the Rapid Response Unit at Fort Grill 3 months ago. It was a hole surrounded by thousands of miles of icy silence. Our only entertainment was feuding with Captain Vance. Vance considered us desert wimps and pushed us as if World War III were coming tomorrow. That night, the temperature dropped to minus 25 degrees Celsius. The siren blared at 3:15 a.m. "On your horses, ice cowboys." Sergeant Miller yelled. "The Zulu knot is under threat. The standard is 12 minutes, or you'll be eating snow for breakfast." We raced through the taiga. The snow crunched like broken glass. Halfway there, it became clear that the knee-high snowdrifts had eaten up our time. "Cut through the abandoned Sector B," Miller ordered, pointing to the concrete wall of the construction site. I was the first to climb the fence. Below was a white void, and then I broke out in a sweat that instantly turned to ice. My father's words came to mind. "Never hit a board with a hammer if you can't see what's under it." "Hendrix, jump, damn it. We're losing 40 seconds. Miller was already helping Dixon up. "Something's not right here." I whispered. "It's too smooth. The statistics are on my side, Hendrix." Dixon laughed, pushed me away, and dove into the snowdrift. Crunch. I will never forget that sound. It wasn't the sound of a broken branch. It was the sound of metal tearing through steel. Dixon was lying impaled on a rusty piece of rebar, sticking out of a concrete pillar under the snow. The pin pierced the chest plate of his armor, bent from the impact, and emerged a millimeter from his throat, tearing the skin on his neck. We pulled him out and bandaged the wound with trembling hands. We were 10 minutes too late. When we stumbled into the Zulu post, battered and frozen, Captain Vance didn't even look at the stopwatch. He sat in his chair, sipping coffee from a thermos and watching the thermal imaging monitors. "Sir, we have a casualty," Miller reported. There were bent pins under the snow at the construction site. "Looks like sabotage." Vance turned slowly. His eyes were empty. "I know, Sergeant. I bent them myself yesterday afternoon." We froze. Dixon, clutching his bloodied neck, croaked. "Why, sir, you nearly killed me." Vance stood up, walked over to Dixon, and poked his finger at his torn flak jacket. "I bent them to see which of you watches your step and which of you believes in luck. Real counterterrorism isn't about running against the clock. It's paranoia. If Hendrix hadn't slowed down at the fence, you would all have jumped after him. And now there would be 3 dead bodies here." The captain took a sip of coffee and added, "By the way, Dixon, your father called the staff clerk yesterday. He said you always bet on 0. We went out into the frosty night. I looked at Dixon, who was silent, staring at his bloodied hands. The worst thing was not that the captain had almost killed us. The worst thing was that he knew Dixon's father's surname, even though Dixon had never mentioned it in any documents. Tell him that today 0 didn't come up. You're free to go." We went out into the frosty night. I looked at Dixon, who was silent, staring at his bloodied hands. The worst thing was not that the captain had almost killed us. The worst thing was that he knew Dixon's father's surname, even though Dixon had never mentioned it in any documents. The millionths of a second between flight and impact is the moment when you see God. Dixon flew down with the same defiant smile he usually wore when doubling his bets at the bar. I closed my eyes, but the sound caught up with me faster than the wind. Crash. It was the sound of a torn tin can mixed with a dull, as if all the oxygen had been knocked out of a person along with their soul. When I opened my eyes, the world became monochrome. Black night, white snow, and a red streak slowly winding its way across the Kevlar fabric of Dixon's bulletproof vest. "Don't move. Just don't move, Corporal," Miller shouted as he jumped over the fence. Dixon froze in an unnatural position. The reinforcement, as thick as a human finger, pierced the chest plate of his interceptor like a needle through paper. From the terrible blow, the rod bent into an arc, tearing out the plate fastenings and flew upwards, tearing the collar of the vest. The sharp, rusty edge of steel stopped just a millimeter from his Adam's apple. One breath, one wrong move, and he would have choked on his own blood right before our eyes. We spent nearly 10 minutes pulling him out of that trap. Every creak of metal against the ceramic vest echoed in my teeth. When we finally freed him, Dixon couldn't speak. He just stared at the piece of steel sticking out of the snow and touched his neck with trembling fingers, where a long crimson scratch was blooming. "To the facility," he croaked. "We have to make it in time." We dragged him to the Zulu Communications node 5 minutes before the deadline. We stumbled into the sterile corridor of the bunker, leaving dirty tracks of melted water and blood behind us. Captain Vance was waiting for us in the center of the monitoring room. He stood with his back to the door, watching the huge screen where thermal imagers scanned the perimeter of the base. Hearing our footsteps, he did not turn around. 11 minutes and 40 seconds, he said in a loud, dry voice. "You made it, Sergeant Miller, but you lost a soldier." "Sir, there was a trap at the construction site," I exclaimed, breathing heavily. "Someone deliberately bent the rebar under the snow." "It's sabotage." Vance turned slowly. His face was completely calm, but his eyes, they had a coldness that could not be measured by a thermometer. "It's not sabotage, Private Hendricks. It's a screening process." He walked over to Dixon, who was barely standing, and ripped the mangled armor plate from his vest. It was pierced through and through.
"Do you know why the American Army is the best in the world?" asked Vance, looking through us. "It's not because of drones or aircraft carriers. It's because we teach people to see the invisible. You all ran according to the standard. You ran for seconds. And only one of you, Hendricks, smelled the rust under the snow." He paused, and the room became so quiet that you could hear the hum of the servers. "Those 4 bent my men on my orders. Yesterday, I wanted to see which of you were soldiers and which were just track and field athletes in uniform. A soldier doubts. A soldier fears. A soldier doesn't jump into the dark just because a stopwatch tells him to." Dixon finally found his voice. "You're crazy, sir. You could have killed me." Vance moved close to him, almost touching noses. "If I wanted to kill you, Dixon, I wouldn't have filed the rebar so that it would bend on impact with the plate. I'm a professional engineer, son. I calculated the angle of the bend. You were supposed to get a scar, not death. You were supposed to learn a lesson they don't teach at West Point." He threw the punctured plate onto the concrete floor. The sound was like a gunshot. "Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, you're all back on the route. But now, Hendricks, you're leading the group. And you, Dixon, will go last. And if you step on the snow even once without checking what's underneath, I'll make you eat your statistics along with your boots." As we emerged from the bunker into the cold blue of pre-dawn Alaska, Dixon stopped. He took his lucky silver coin, which he always tossed before a raid, out of his pocket, looked at it for a few seconds, and simply threw it into a deep snowdrift near the entrance. "Hendricks," he said quietly, without turning around. "What? Tomorrow morning, don't let me jump first. Even if I beg you." I nodded, slinging my rifle over my shoulder. A pale sun was rising above the taiga, but it didn't give off any warmth. In Alaska, the sun was just a light bulb in a refrigerator, where we were all just experimental subjects in Captain Vance's game. We stood at the entrance to the bunker, watching the sun slowly crawl out from behind the jagged tops of the fir trees, painting the snow the color of dried blood. The silence was heavier than our bulletproof vests. Dixon zipped his jacket up to his chin, trying to hide the bandage. but his hands were still visibly shaking. He was no longer the cocky guy who played games with death. Now he knew its taste, the taste of old rust and ice dust. "You know what the worst thing is, Hendrix?" he whispered, looking at his footprints leading to the dark wall of the taiga. "That Vance is a psychopath? No, that he's right. If we were in a combat zone, and there were no rebar but a jumping line, I would have killed you all with a single jump. My confidence would have cost you your lives." He turned to the bunker door behind which the captain had disappeared. He wasn't just testing our reaction. He was burning out the civilians in us. The moment the iron touched my neck, I finally understood where I was. This isn't the army. This is war. Even if the enemy hasn't arrived yet, it's already here. We walked to the barracks, step by step, keeping our distance. I walked ahead, mechanically scanning every bump in the snow, every suspicious mound. The paranoia Vance had talked about settled in me forever, becoming a new sense. Behind us lay the construction site, bent rebar, and our naivety. Ahead of us lay only the endless white noise of Alaska, where death, carefully prepared by your own commander, could lurk beneath every perfect snowdrift. That morning, we slept without dreams for the first time, because in the reality that Vance had revealed to us, dreams were too dangerous a luxury. Subscribe to the channel. Hear new life stories.